Hello, jewelry lover. My name is Bella Naiman, and I'm the founder of New York City Jewelry Week. Welcome to this virtual program, part of NYCJW 24. The theme for the seventh annual edition is Wander and Wander, and it reflects the multifaceted nature of jewelry as both art and personal expression. Wander captures the awe-inspiring craftsmanship behind each piece, the dazzling, delicate, or bold details that turn your head in admiration. Wander invites you to explore the wonderful and wild creative journeys behind the jewelry. It's not just about the finished piece, it's about the adventure it took to get there. Designers experiment, push boundaries, and play with ideas and materials. And this year, New York City Jewelry Week takes participants to see it all unfold. Every necklace, ring, and bracelet is a passport to a new world where innovation reigns and imagination knows no limit. So we hope that these programs will take you on that journey and are your passport as well. Sit back, enjoy, and while these are not live, we welcome your comments. So please don't hesitate to drop us a line, whether it's email or Instagram, or even get in touch with some of the incredible curators, artists, writers that have really worked very hard to bring you this program. So thanks very much. And we also hope to see you out in New York. Bye.
Hello and welcome. Thank you to everybody who is joining us virtually for the New York City Jewelry Week webinar that we're doing today. I am joined by a whole bunch of experts within the colored gemstone trade. They are involved in finding and sourcing and selling gemstones, but they're also in the design side, working in retail, and I'm going to let each of them share their backgrounds. But I want to thank New York City Jewelry Week for coming, and I want to thank American Gem Trade Association for inviting me to be your moderator. My name is Jen Cullen Williams. I am a communications and PR consultant within the jewelry industry, and I'm really excited to be here. So I am going to circle it around. I will start with Kimberly Collins. Please, Kimberly, if you don't mind, she is the president of, we call it AGTA, and she also has her own design and jewelry business. And I'll let you kick it off and just share a little bit about yourself and tell us what you do in the biz, and then we'll go around the circle.
Thank you, Jen. And thank you all for being here today. This is really exciting for our industry. I am Kimberly Collins, and as Jen said, I am the second female elected president in 43 years at American Gem Trade Association. I'm very proud to hold that title. I am just about at my 29th year as a colored gemstone dealer in this industry. And when I started 29 years ago, there were very, very few women in this business. I really didn't quite know what I was getting myself into at the time, but it didn't take long for me to understand and fall in love. And it is my passion to work in this industry. And I never thought I'd be here as a president of an association, but here I am. And that passion carries over in what I do in relation to gemstones and the end consumer. I think that's it. Yeah, for now.
All right, I'll send it over to Julia.
Hi, my name is Julia Hackman Chafe. I am the social media manager / just like a colored stone specialist at IntercolorUSA, which is my family business. We wholesale sapphires, rubies, and emeralds. And I am also a luxury and jewelry content creator that goes by Jewels with Jewels. I started around 3 years ago, and since I started, I've had the absolute pleasure of participating in so many different AGTA events, like the Tucson show, and like following along with the Spectrum Awards every single year. And I've also had the pleasure of meeting celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Cardi B, and Priyanka Chopra, and interviewing them on their jewels.
She has the dream job. Yeah. Wonderful. And I'm going to send it over to Cathy.
Hi, guys. I am Cathy Cronin. I've been in the jewelry industry for about 36 years. From all aspects, I worked in jewelry manufacturing, gemstone wholesale, and currently hold the position of Senior Vice President of Merchandising and Strategy for Long's Jewelers, which is East Coast. We have 6 stores, 5 in Massachusetts and 1 in New Hampshire. I oversee really all of the curation within the stores of gemstone jewelry, high jewelry, diamond jewelry, and my original passion has always been gemstones. I started in the industry when I was 18 years old for a small company called Town and Country. And I have really, every aspect of my life has been in and out of gemstones. So thank you for having me here. It's one of my favorite topics, actually. So happy to be here and talk about it.
I love that. And then now I'll send it over to Sherry.
Hi, thank you for making this possible for me. I'm the owner of the Goldsmith Ltd. I like to think of it as a gem of a store. It's a charming store, not huge, but it's been in the heart of Chicago's shopping area on Michigan Avenue, and we've been around for 60 years now. I bought it from my predecessor, and we have always made and designed and do a lot of creative work. Therefore, we use a lot of color stones, things that are exciting and a little different. And I've just, over the years, grown to love color. Color is so much more intriguing and exciting. And that's what we've always done a lot of. I like to think of our store as sort of a gallery, and because we have our cases in the walls and showcase things. And I always have a lot of loose color around, and just to excite people, or so they question what this is all about.
I love that. And can you just tell us about your background? Because it is not cassette tapes for anybody that listens and knows what those are or have ever seen them. I don't know, Julia, if you've ever seen it.
Well,
No,
I'm actually sitting in the back workshop. It's a little work area, and these are molds and models behind me. And so it's not so glamorous, but that's what they are. So my history is, it was purely by luck and accident. I fell into this. I engraved jewelry for a while, and that was my first introduction to the jewelry world. And I was looking for a job in my young 20s, and then you'd go through the newspapers to find a job. And there was a new store on Michigan Avenue called the Goldsmith Ltd. And I applied, and I found it to be so exciting that I started to take some jewelry classes and get involved. It was easy for me to visualize and draw, and because we always designed and made things. And so I just became more a part of the store and the operations. And after 20 some years, then the family sold me the business, as my predecessor was having some health issues, and I've been at it now for almost another 30 years. So we have a long history.
Great.
And I'm very proud of that.
I love that. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of different facets of the colored gemstone industry, but I would love to hear from each of you what your favorite gemstone is and why. I know it might be hard to narrow it down to one, but if there's maybe a story behind a stone that you've encountered in your careers, I would love to hear it. So I'll start again with Kimberly.
Oh, great. I've been asked this question before, and it's the most difficult. As a stone dealer, it's the most difficult question, because I always ask, can I please pick them all? But okay, I'm going to give a 2-part answer. The stone that really sucked me into this industry, well, East African gems got me into this industry, but I had never heard of a gemstone called spinel before I became a gem dealer. And once I saw that stone and saw the refractive index, which is the sparkle factor in a gem, the bling factor, I was blown away of how it's natural, it's durable, it's sparkly, it comes in a range of colors, red being the fire engine red being the top color, but it also comes in platinum and gray shades. So I love that stone. But I'm going to say I love it still. I love all my gems I sell, but sapphire probably for the broad range of color. Literally, you can get every shade of the rainbow. And again, you have brilliance and durability and so much color option. So that's my modern reaction, but I don't want Spinel to think I lost the love, because I sure still love it.
I love that. I'll send it over to Julia.
I have basically the same response as Kim. Sapphires are my favorite stone, just for mostly practical reasons. I wear a rainbow sapphire choker every single day, like for the last 3 years I've had it. I just love that sapphires come in every single color of the rainbow and like vibrantly. And after traveling to Bangkok and visiting cutting factories, sapphire cutting factories, it made me fall even more in love with sapphire, just to know that every single stone, no matter how small, is cut by hand and without any crazy equipment, just like by eye and by hand. It's the coolest thing ever.
So fun. And Cathy?
So it's like naming your favorite child. You know, you can't just pick
Right?
one, right? And honestly, I think it changes all the time. Right now, my favorite stone is jade. I'm really into jade. It's a protector stone, which I think because all of life is so unstable right now, I've got this honey Buddha that I wear every single day. I've got my wedding ring is imperial jade. It is a protector stone. What one of my dearest, closest friends, who was the first female president of the American Gem Trade Association, introduced me to it about 25 years ago, and taught me all these stories about how it really does. It's a breathing stone, and it actually changes. It changes color. The color gets more vibrant, and it kind of deadens a little bit depending on life cycle. So right now it's jade, but if you asked me 6 months ago, it probably would have been garnet.
Perfect.
That's a great one too.
Great. And Sherry, what about you?
Well, I have to say Spinel. I liked it because a lot of people don't know about it, so they find it sort of intriguing. And it's up to you to educate them and show them and give them examples. But I like the colors because they're complex. It's never like a primary color, but it always, when you look at it, there's multiple colors in it. Even the red always has a little orange or a little peach. They're just, and they're softer. They're easier to wear sometimes because they blend with things. And they're, as Kim pointed out, very lively. And so they're exciting. And sometimes it's fun to have something, or encourage people to have something that other people don't have or they haven't heard of. So that's what makes it unique. And that's probably my favorite.
That's fun. I pretty much like all the tourmalines, like Paraíba or watermelon. But one random stone that I got drawn to is ametrine, which is not like a super fancy stone, but it's kind of half the citrine and half the amethyst. My daughter is amethyst birthstone, and I'm a citrine November. Actually, my birthday's November. So, anywho, they kind of blend the two, and so I've purchased a few at AGTA, and I actually need to get them set and create something with them. But I love that. So
You have a lot of people on this panel that can help you with
Can
that.
help, right?
Yes.
I know. So, well, let's just talk about AGTA. Can you, Kim, share a little bit about what AGTA is and what the mission is and why it matters for the trade and also for consumers?
Okay, well, without quoting exactly off our mission statement, the mission of the American Gem Trade Association, it was dedicated to promoting the long-term stability and integrity of the natural color gemstone and pearl industries. And what that really essentially means, the AGTA is well known in the gem and jewelry industry for maintaining the highest ethical standards and is recognized as really the authority in color on natural color gemstones and cultured pearls. To further that, it's easy to just make a statement, a broad statement like that. But one of the things AGTA took the extra step for is put together a code of ethics. And no matter whether you are an affiliate member or a firm member. Firm members are the cornerstone of this association. You have to sign on in paperwork every year that you are following these standards. And to back that up, I mean, we have a ethics and grievance committee. So if you are not abiding by responsible sourcing, disclosure on the kind of gemstone treatments you have, you can essentially get the boot. And I say it like that, but I think in this industry, where in any industry, really what's happening, where there's a lot of greenwashing going on, it's extremely important that you are held to the fire if you're part of something. If you're saying you're an ethical source, you're saying you're a responsible source, I believe that there needs to be a backup there. And who's holding you accountable from saying that? I mean, we all have our own set of ethics, right? Our own personal ethics, but being held accountable to your other members and other designers and gem dealers is extremely important. And the more and more I've realized that in the industry. And one last thing I did want to say, you know, AGTA was founded in 1981, and we're 43 years in. And when we were founded, the group of gem dealers that got together to found AGTA did it to protect the end consumer. That was the end goal. And that is a very important thing to think, because it wasn't even cool to be ethical then. I mean, they didn't do it to be cool. They did it to do right by the miners, by the supply chain, and by the end consumer ultimately. And that is a very, people are walking into stores today asking for ethically sourced gemstones. And to me, the reason I am a member and the whole reason I became interested in AGTA is because I wanted to be part of something that helps and aids in this supply chain. And I know my integrity, but I wasn't afraid to be held to the flame that my supply chain is clean and ethical. And every member of this association does the same. So.
Perfect. I'm going to follow up with a question to Julia, and then I'll have another question for you, Kim. But so Julia, your family business, IntercolorUSA, has been, in the business for a long time, and your uncle is one of the founding members. Can you just share a little bit more about like how your family, about that sort of early history, and then why, you're a younger emerging person, why you feel that it's important for consumers from, the next generations of jewelry buyers, why it would be important for them to think about, where they're getting their stones and who they're getting them from.
Yeah. So my uncle BJ was one of the founding members of AGTA. He was also president of AGTA 20 something years ago. My family business has been around for 43 years, which will tell you something about how much knowledge I've been getting against my will from my dad and his brothers. But I think that the importance of AGTA, from my first day in my office, my dad would always talk about how important our trade is and how the colored stone industry specifically is so teeny tiny, and that the entire industry is based on trust and honesty and like real relationships with one another. And AGTA is important for protecting that honesty and that trust. And it's also important for protecting the end consumer. Without this honesty and trust in our industry, the end user or the end consumer of the product is the one that really ends up getting screwed. So AGTA making sure that everyone is an honest business person, trustworthy business person, and is sourcing their stones ethically. It's the entire foundation of our industry, and AGTA is really the only trade organization that protects us in such a strong, powerful way. My generation, I'm on like the cusp of Gen Z / like millennial. I don't know how Gen Z I would consider myself, but my generation, I don't even have to speak to them. They value ethical sourcing and always want to know more and are so curious about where gemstones are coming from. We see that a lot in the diamond industry, and that's moving a lot into the colored stone industry as well. So having an honest, trustworthy supply chain is really the most valuable thing to Gen Z.
That's great. So we touched on it a little bit earlier, but the AGTA's Gem Fair that takes place in Tucson every year, that's been going on. It's probably since the inception or sometime. Can you just, Kim, talk a little bit about what that is and like what's going on in Tucson and why that comes up when you talk about colored stones? It's people outside the industry, consumers, they always hear about it, but they don't really know. So just share a little bit more.
Well, I like to liken it to, as a gem dealer, especially because I'm an exhibitor there, but we call this the Super Bowl of the gem industry. Ironically, it's coinciding with the actual Super Bowl in football, but it has nothing to do with football. It has all to do about colored gemstones. And AGTA has its own show that's not open to the public. It is strictly for wholesale only and very well vetted. And if you want to talk about a star-studded experience, it is in our world because you have all the big houses without naming names. Every brand that you've seen at the top end of couture in jewelry is there buying their colored gemstones for the year. And they make sure they are there on the first day of the show opening up because that's where the stones are brand new and ready to be sold. And you get there in the first come, first serve. Really, it's like that. Gems are rare, so it's not like buying loaves of bread off the shelf in a grocery store. You buy one extremely rare and gorgeous sapphire, it's gone. There may not be another one in the show that looks just like it. And for that reason, there's a lot of competition as far as getting there first and buying. But the best part of it is the trust you have within that convention center. And buying there means to a lot of our retailers and designers and manufacturers that they can buy with trust. And they can have confidence in selling, making that gemstone into a piece of jewelry and then selling to the end consumer. Buy with confidence, sell with confidence is one of our mottos, and it's completely true. And that's why I'd say we probably are one of the biggest draws in Tucson. Tucson is in the entire city of Tucson is gems and minerals. But I can honestly say AGTA is the highest end show, and it's a very coveted and hard to get into show because, again, it's not open to the public. I think I probably will think of something else, but it's my pride and joy. And one last thing I want to say about it, the very first year. So in 1996, I attended my first Tucson show. And I know pretty much everybody that has gone to Tucson has had this experience. And it's on a gem hall floor, and you walk in a convention center and you look down at the floor through the windows at the top, and all you see is color and sparkle. And like in every booth, you can see it from that far away, little teeny stones. And you get this feeling in your body. And it's so much excitement. You just can't wait. And for a lot of people, it's extremely overwhelming. But it's also so exciting. And you can find such unique, different things from every stone we've talked about, from jade to spinel to sapphires to ametrine. I mean, you name it, emeralds, rubies, pearls, gorgeous pearls, and the most rare, most exotic. So I'm very proud of AGTA and our show in Tucson, as you can tell. So I don't want to take up all the time. I can keep going on.
Yeah, I actually am just curious if Cathy or Sherry, if you have any past experiences, at AGTA at the Gem in Tucson that you wanted to add to it. If not, I have a lot of other questions for everybody.
Well, it's just an exciting experience because you're exposed to so much beauty and so many choices. It gets so difficult. We all wish we had an unlimited pocketbook to buy, and almost everybody in our field usually buys more stones than we can produce product or rings or pieces of jewelry in a year. And we start to get stocked up because we love buying color. It's color is just so different than anything else. You can't call up another dealer and say, oh, I want a 12 karat trillion cut lagoon blue tourmaline.
Yeah.
And, so it's not something that's replicated. So if you fall in love with a stone that's a little different or a little unusual in color or cut, you have to buy it because you won't see it
Yeah.
again. And so that's why we all collect more stones than we need.
Great.
So true.
I
Actually, yeah, just super quick. I went to Tucson the first time in 1993, and I ended up going to a different show other than AGTA, and I bought a opal that was enhanced, and I didn't know. And I spent like $5,000 on the stone, and it was sugared, which is an enhancement that just kind of makes the stone look a little bit more alive. It gives it a very strong play on color. Long story short, I completely got screwed, and it gave me just an indication of how aware I had to be when I was in this industry, spending another person's money on inventory. And so that's how I found out about AGTA. And I've traveled to many countries and purchased a lot of stones. And when it comes right down to it, every single source that I'm using right now is 100% affiliated with the American Gem Trade Association, including Julia's family, including Kimberly Collins. It's honestly, it's the only thing that exists within this industry that gives me some stability in terms of who I'm buying from and the ethics that they also have in terms of what they're selling. So it makes it very comfortable for me, and I've created a lot of friends and been able to find many sources for all the gemstones that we have in our store right now through AGTA.
So great. And
Yeah.
just to follow up, I mean, as a VP of merchandising for a 6-store retail,
Right.
what is your day-to-day like? Like, how are you looking for different products, jewelry, stones?
You know what? It's actually super interesting. The whole world's gotten so interesting, over the past decade. We're a Rolex dealer. We're also a Patek Philippe dealer in terms of timepieces. We're a family-owned business, 4th generation, and there's a huge responsibility in caring for that and ensuring that goes on for the next generation. So I think it's really important that we're bringing transparency mostly to our client base, and in that we've created trainings within our stores with AGTA. A lot of AGTA dealers, they come in and they do trainings within our company. Transparency is number one, and disclosure is like this with it. So for me, there's no question, especially where I'm here to uphold a reputation that this 150-year-old company has, and part of it is making sure that I'm sourcing products ethically. So it's a lot of responsibility, Jen. It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's really hard, but you know what? What's interesting is there's so many brands out there, right? There's so many mono brands that people are buying. Whether it's Chanel or Louis Vuitton or Cartier or Tiffany, and how do we compete with that? As an independent jeweler, as an independent designer like Sherry, how do we compete with those big boxes? And this is a way for us to do it. I go and spend a little bit of time with Intercolor, and I ask Julia's family to source me, an amazing purple sapphire, unheated from Madagascar, and I've got to match it 3 times over for a family to make this beautiful suite of jewelry. And I can absolutely trust them that they're going to be able to do that for me. And then we get to turn it into some beautiful jewelry. So it's, it turns into legacy, which is cool. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, that's so fun. And I'd love to hear, Sherry, from your perspective, from also the design side, when you're going to source and find and what's your experience? What's your kind of day-to-day like?
Well, day-to-day is wearing a lot of different hats. But color stone, I always rely on going to the shows, Tucson being the biggest, and then the Vegas show, and picking out stones there. But I'm lucky too, through the years, I'm in Chicago, so we do get some salespeople that come through, such as Kim, where she can lay out on my back room her whole everything, and I can take a little time to decide and take waxes out and see if things fit and play. So that's always exciting. One of my best stories was years ago when I had a customer. It was a longtime customer, and it was reaching his 25th wedding anniversary. And I'm sure a few of you have stories like this, where he said, I want the biggest, or not the biggest, I want the most beautiful stone you can find for my wife for the anniversary. There was no limit on the price, just find the most beautiful stone. And that's each of our dreams, right? To find something like that, go out and find something for a customer. Right. It took a lot of work. I did the whole show, every single booth, to see what I could find that was the most perfect. And it was a spinel.
That's great. I'm kind of going to pose this to anybody who wants to jump in on the question, but I think if I'm a consumer and I'm going to go and either try to purchase a piece that's already made or buy a stone and have a piece made from either a designer or a retail store, or however, I guess those would be probably the 2 main ways in which you would do it. What are some questions I should be asking the jeweler or the sales associate or the designer? What should I ask about colored stones as a consumer? And maybe just like a couple pieces of tips that they can take away if they're considering a purchase like that.
Sometimes I know I will ask them how they intend to wear the ring, because if it's an engagement ring, sometimes you don't want to direct them to a stone that's too soft, because the trend has been a lot of unique or different choices other than diamonds. And so you want to at least lead them in the right direction, something that may not be too soft, or set it in a way that's a little more protective, and open their eyes to the pluses and the minuses of whatever stone they're choosing. And that's one thing that I would always try to guide them.
Julia or Cathy?
My dad always tells me when we're buying stones that the cutting is the most important part.
Yeah.
Everyone has their preference in color, but a good cut, everyone can tell. Even an uneducated consumer can tell that a stone is cut well. And just paying attention to looking at the stone, I don't even think there are specific guidelines that you need to see what good cutting is. It's just how the stone sparkles back at you and how it speaks to you. And that is pretty much it.
Julia's
very right. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it totally does. In the quality, definitely. One of the things that I love to do, and in even meeting with clients, is I love when they ask about origin. Where's the stone from? And I would say 99.5 of the dealers within AGTA, they know exactly where their product is coming from. And unlike the diamond industry, I think this is something that I think more and more people should be talking about. And it's connected to really interesting stories. This stone's from Cambodia, this stone's from Tanzania, this stone is East African, this is Madagascar or Mozambique. I love it. Or this emerald is from Afghanistan. I didn't even know emeralds can come from Afghanistan. So I love to talk through that stuff with consumers. I think it's an important question to ask too, because the more you ask, the more disclosure is going to be out there.
And I wanted to contribute something quickly because I am from the opposite side of this. I don't deal with the end consumer. I supply the stones, but I can tell when I'm getting these bridal calls because they're much more specific. Like if I'm getting an alternative bridal, ruby, emerald, sapphire, whatever it is, I like to ask the questions because I try to visualize the end consumer. And I don't think all stone dealers do that, but I think especially in AGTA, we're a little more aware of what's happening in the market and trends that are driving. And just like Sherry said, durability is a huge factor. How are they going to wear it? What are they going to have it up on just simple prongs? Because for that, you definitely want some durability in your gemstone. And do they want to know about origin? And to what Julia said about cutting, I have always said, you can take the ugliest color you can imagine. It doesn't matter, whatever your ugliest color is, and you can facet that to perfection, and you will have a new awareness. Like the ugliest color, if it's cut right, it can be spectacular because it catches the light in different ways. It picks up other colors around it. It is so, because I saw one that was this greeny brown. It was just like a normal color that you just not many people could wear. And it was cut. And it was my aha moment in the industry. I saw this done. I'm like, this is actually so intriguing and so beautiful. And it's not a color I'd normally gravitate to purchase, but I had to buy the stone because it was spectacular and so interesting and so different. So I agree with cutting. And one more thing about clarity too, I'll add in there that you'll get a higher caliber stone dealing with AGTA members because inclusions are something that happens. And, you know, anybody that's bought diamonds in the past knows about the certification process, but there really isn't something comparable in the colored gemstone and pearl industry. But inclusions are important and they're not bad. They're not bad all the time, but where they're at and how they affect the gemstone is important. And again, they play in with the cutting of a finely cut gemstone. So
that's great. So let's talk about gemstones and kind of what is trending in the market. If you can even say that about, you know, a natural product, but is there any sort of stones that have been kind of popular amongst your customers or just anything that's kind of interesting or even maybe surprising to you within the colored stone industry?
Tourmalines.
We all want to talk.
Yeah.
Pearl. Okay, so Sherry says pearls.
oops, sorry.
I think combinations of colors that we didn't use
Right.
before, where you're putting a few different colors together that can be so exciting and interesting. So I think that's being shown more often. And men wearing jewelry, you know, this become a huge new market. And boldly wearing color. At the Spectrum Awards, there was so many entries for men's jewelry that you would never see before. Yeah. And so that's good. It just leads to a bigger market for us and a bigger audience. So that's one of the things I see.
Cathy, I know you're always on the merchandising side and the buying side. What are you kind of predicting or seeing?
So, you know, right now we're actually getting, there's a lot of attention on tourmalines right now and fancy colored sapphires. So, you know, oranges, peaches, greens, all different shades and hues of greens. And also, I totally agree with Sherry. Mixing colors, I'm seeing a lot of blended color that I wouldn't have seen in the past, like a purple sapphire with a nice deep blue aqua. Just really, really, really strong zircons. Zircons are I'm seeing them everywhere as well. So it's nice just to kind of step away from the red, green, and blue stone for a minute. And see some other spectacular stones have a minute.
Fun. And then I'm going to pose this. I don't know, Kim, did you have anything to add on that?
Well, I just was going to bring up as far as color for bridal, the teal The teal
Mhm.
range is still going strong. And that started about 5 years ago, I'd say, where the blue-green colors for bridal and it's sapphire. I mean, the blue greens for durability purposes, it's really the sapphire, and they come in these blue green, very nature. I like to call them nature colors. They can be the color of a lake or the pine trees, or it's a very intriguing trend in color. And of course, we have to mention the Barbie craze,
Mhm.
because that movie literally drove an infusion of interest in pinks, the full gamut of pinks, from pastel pink to the hot and pinks to what you consider Barbie pink. And it's still going strong. And we did see that also in the Spectrum Awards. There were many pink tourmaline, gorgeous pink tourmaline earrings and things that were entered that just are a pop of color that are so interesting and dynamic, that really sets a piece of jewelry apart from the average, right?
Mhm.
Yep. And I'll just mention, because you've both said the Spectrum Awards, for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's an AGTA produced design and jewelry and gemstone competition where different members of the association and outside of the association
Correct.
can enter their designs or special stones or amazing cuts of stones. And then the panel of judges reviews everything, and then they're all announced during the Tucson show, correct? Or somewhere around there.
Actually, today they're being announced. Our AGTA's press release is going out today. It's a very stringent competition, and the judges are vetted the same way, similarly to the way they judge the gemstones. And so every year we have a new panel of judges, and they're looked at for their expertise in the industry, their longevity, their design quality, their knowledge for manufacturing a piece of jewelry or the cutting. We have every year a lapidary that is part of the panel, and lapidary meaning a stone cutter, somebody that specializes in faceting and cutting, that really has an understanding of a well-cut gemstone. And so it is amazing. And it's very exciting for the industry, because it does put some new up-and-comer designers on the map that sometimes they enter, and their first time nobody knows their name, and all of a sudden they're catapulted way up here because they have entered a spectacular piece of jewelry. And you just never know unless you try. It's a really exciting competition.
Really cool. So, Julia, you have amassed a huge following on social media, on both Instagram and TikTok, and kind of positioned as, a creator who talks about jewelry and gemstones and what celebrities are wearing. And, you've it's like remarkable in what you've accomplished in, a short amount of time, but you do such a great job of talking about, these really extraordinary pieces. She went to I can let you talk about the places you have gone and the red carpet interviews and things that you've done. But I'm just curious, a little bit about your audience and the questions that they send to you, because I'm sure you're getting millions of DMs and all of the things, or the comments. What are some things or questions that they get that they send to you about colored stones, or, thinking about I want to purchase a stone? What do you see there, and any other fun things that about stones and celebrities?
I feel very fortunate to have built my audience. I think I have, between Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, around over 1 million followers now.
Wow.
And
It's pretty impressive.
That's cool, Julia.
Thank you. Very truthfully, the questions I get about gemstones, I usually have to put a stop to, because I don't sell to consumers. And so whenever someone asks me, whenever I post stones from Intercolor, and I always get inquiries being like, how much is this? How do I purchase one? I literally cannot sell to them. So I usually have to put a stop to it pretty much immediately. But the questions I get overall It would be like if Kim Kardashian wears, for example, she just wore like Princess Diana's amethyst necklace last night or 2 nights ago. And the questions are mostly a general curiosity about the colored stone industry, because I provide insight into my family business and how the colored stone industry is mostly family businesses. I always get questions about how to enter the industry, and is it possible if you don't have a family business behind you, which absolutely it is. And basically just like where to even start looking at jewelry and learning about this whole industry that for the rest of the world is pretty much shielded off. Like, we all know about the fashion industry. There's so many movies about it. We've all seen Devil Wears Prada, but there's really not much media on the jewelry industry in general. And I think that there's like a huge untapped audience of younger people who all have no idea what's going on in our industry and just want to know more about it.
I think that's so true. I know if you tell people what you do, oh, I work in the jewelry industry, they're always like, oh my God. And there's always, oh, something special about, like, they want to talk about the jewelry that they have, whether it's their engagement ring or something that they inherited from their grandparents. But like, there's always a story and a longevity to jewelry that is different than other industries and industries that I've worked in, which, fashion and accessories. The jewelry industry, there is a huge emotional tie, which is so special.
Very, very important.
Yeah. And Julia, one of my favorite things you do is, well, you do a lot of things that are amazing for the jewelry industry and raising awareness and interest. But I've been enjoying when you go up to people on the street and ask, what is the most iconic piece of colored gemstone or jewelry, and people's answers are so intriguing. It's great. I'm so impressed with a lot of people know the big yellow diamond. I think it was a Tiffany's necklace, the yellow diamond necklace. Yeah. And I mean, it's always intriguing to me. And I think that general awareness of jewelry and who's wearing what now has definitely come up, and you have helped attribute to that. You helped raise the excitement about jewelry and sentimentality in the jewelry industry and all that.
And I would say New York City Jewelry Week is doing that same thing, is really building like the interest in it, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And Sherry, I think you had something to add. Sorry.
Oh, just the longevity is absolutely true. There are so many times a piece can be handed down. Sometimes I say it needs to morph, needs to be put in a new mounting because it's worn down. But sometimes just repolishing the stone a little, giving it a new life and remounting it. And here now the granddaughter has it, and it has a long history. And sure, that makes it so emotional and so special. Sometimes much more valuable, priceless, right? So yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to do a little roundtable of just if this audience wants to learn more about colored stones, any resources, books, things that you would recommend they do in their life and their journey into the gemstone world. So any recommendations, anybody can go.
Well, I was going to say, and I meant to say this earlier, in regards to American Gem Trade Association, AGTA, we have a fabulous website. And actually, we're under construction, but it already has some amazing information out there, agta.org. You can go play around, plug around. You can look up our code of ethics, our mission statement. You can go and look up dealers in the industry and retailers that are AGTA members. You can find sources. If you are an end consumer and want to have an AGTA source gemstone, you can go there and find a person that can help you. Sherry, Cathy, they both have stores that are AGTA members. So not only are they affiliated they're an affiliate member, they also know all the AGTA sources to get whatever stone it is you want. So I see that as a huge resource. In addition to that, you can go and check out the past Spectrum winners. We have that as placeholder. We have a whole section so you can see the design jewelry that's been entered in the past, and that's a real fun thing to do as well.
There was a book that was released about, I think about 6 years ago called Stoned. And I don't remember the
That's a
author at
good
the
book.
moment, but I bought, maybe 100 copies through the year or two or three and would hand them out to customers that were interested in jewelry because it had some really fun stories about the history of emeralds, pearls, some of going back through history and how they played a role or a part in many of the stories of the past. And so men would like it as well as women. So it was just a fun thing to hand out to people that expressed interest and a gesture that was usually very well appreciated.
Wonderful. Kathy?
So I definitely back Kim AGTA's website, although under construction is super helpful for just a quick education as well. And I am going to throw in a little bit of a bit for GIA.edu. They have a great educational part of their website that goes pretty deep into colored stones. And I mean, a book that I've carried around for like 35 years. It's called Gemstones of the World. And it's really super, super simple. Walter Schumann is the guy that wrote it like 35 years ago. But it just shows you where different deposits are, where mines are, some of the oldest mines in the world. So it's just kind of a cool book if you really want to understand a little bit more about gemology.
It's great.
And then Julia, besides following your social profiles,
I was going to shamelessly plug myself. I'm not going to lie.
please.
I guess although not all of my content is informational and focused entirely on jewels, I do post a lot of informational content. But what got me started in this industry, and my dad showed me basically like a homemade documentary by his friend Federico. And Federico, I think, now lives in Bangkok, and he visited a ruby mine in Myanmar and like literally took you through the mine. It was just like him and the cameraman. And I feel like it was pretty long. It was like a 2.5 hour documentary. And you just got to learn all about rubies and that specific mine and like how it looks and how even the mining operations are family run and everything is so small. And it was so fascinating. Learning about gemstone mining will make you think to yourself, how are gemstones so cheap? Like it's
Right.
blows your mind.
And the amount of people that are involved and the amount of, I mean, worldwide, whether it's Sri Lanka, Thailand, as you said, Cambodia, Burma, Brazil, there's so many amazing sources. And the fact that mining contributes to all those communities within those countries, they help provide food and clothing and water and education for those communities. That's a big part of the give back that people don't realize. Buying a natural gemstone and the pearls in the pearl mines and the pearl farms, that also, it's the same thing. It's just, it's an amazing industry that has a microscope on it. And at least in our industry, in AGTA, it does. And we're very conscious of how we source everything. And I think there's a lot of education that is easily attainable out there between what Sherry and Kathy and Julia all said, and as well as, use AGTA as a resource. You can look up any colored gemstone on there and get information on it, durability, just like the GIA, Gemological Institute of America, has that same information as well. So.
Yes. Well, this was really fun, really informative. And so I just want to thank each of our panelists for sharing their love of colored gemstones and also giving so much insight as to what's trending and background and all of that. And I want to thank New York City Jewelry Week for inviting us to speak, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.